Tonight on Bundoora Bulletin, the cost of living crisis and how it's impacting the finance and livelihoods of young Australians. The level crossing removal program enters its 10th year with delays still ahead. See what it means for commuters. We take a look at how up-and-coming artists are making their first music gigs in Melbourne. A special report on how international students cope with living and studying away from home.
The life and times of Kobe Bryant, how the sporting legend is still proudly remembered 4 years on. The AFL concussion fiasco, why new protocols have left clubs stunned, and the unsustainable future of the Australian Grand Prix, hear why it might not have a long-term place at Albert Park.
Good evening and welcome to Bundoora Bulletin. I'm Nikita.
And I'm Jack, bringing you the latest from around Melbourne.
It's the phrase that's been looming over the heads of Australians for months now, cost of living crisis. Experts say relief is on the way, but how are young Australians holding up through this financial turmoil? Noel Lawson has more.
I don't have a lot of money in my bank account.
I didn't have enough money.
For a lot of my friends, it's made it very difficult for them.
Yeah, it's been difficult.
There is not a single property in Australia or even a room in a shared house that is affordable for someone on youth allowance. This proves the unfortunate impact of the cost of living crisis on all young Australians, with many forced into making sacrifices to sustain their lives.
Having to cut out certain things, really constantly thinking about how much money we're spending on groceries, how much electricity and water we're using because the rates are going up, and just living out of home and trying to study and work at the same time, it's pretty full on.
You definitely do have to consider a lot, if you can afford to go out.
And we're just tightening the belt around some relative extra spending.
Kind of feels like I'm sort of stagnated. I'm not really going anywhere.
The Parliament of Australia released statistics showing the rapid increase in prices over the last 20 years, with the Consumer Price Index, the measurement of inflation in Australia, raising by 5.1% since the year 2000. Despite the constant struggles, Australians don't want to abandon their home, with people still finding the joys of living in this country.
However, I think here, we live in such a good country.
Things are always going to get better.
Yeah, I love living in Australia. I don't think I would really want to live anywhere else.
Noel Lawson, Bundoora Bulletin.
Next, the level crossing removal project promised Victorian commuters a safer experience on our roads, but not without delays and reschedules to our public transport. A decade on from the beginning of the program, how has it affected our road and transport industry? Ratu Body takes a closer look.
It's the initiative promising Victorians a safer experience on our roads, but 10 years on the project only seems fraught with delays.
Victorians have been feeling the consequences of level crossing removing since the project began in 2014 and have been left wondering how much longer until the rerouting and delays become a thing in the past.
The project began with 50 level crossings slated for removal by 2022, which in the years since has expanded to 110 total level crossing removals by 2030. The project promises reduced traffic congestion and delays, but not without rerouting on major lines such as Werribee and Frankston. PTV, however, is assuring Victorians that these are necessary to improve the transport experience in the long term. In an exclusive statement, V-Line told Bundoora Bulletin that they make every effort to run services as scheduled and plan intensively to minimise the impact of disruptions when there are changes in services. An anonymous member of the Public Transport Users Association also told Bundoora Bulletin,
improvements typically come with impacts to services to allow project works. All work carried out that requires road or rail outages are planned well in advance, ensuring we have sufficient time to advise the transport users and provide alternatives such as bus replacements for rail commuters.
There are criticisms other than major delays, however. In 2022, Liberal MP Brad Roswell conducted a survey asking Cheltenham residents if they had been consulted by then Premier Daniel Andrews regarding the permanent closure of the Latrobe Street level crossing, and 96% of residents said no. Other local protests over lack of consultants, such as protest against Skyrail proposition, have also arisen.
So with the project coming to an end some time away, commuters will be left to weigh on whether the frustration of bearing for safer and faster travel on the state's most congested line is worth it or not. Either way, it is certain Victorians will be glad once the project comes to a conclusion. Ratu Body, Bundoora Bulletin.
Now we turn to our entertainment segment. Jack, what's been happening this week?
Glad you asked, Nikita. This week has seen some celebrity superstars strut their stuff and put on some suave showings at the annual Met Gala, just under 300 celebrities showing up. This year's theme was Sleeping Beauty's reawakening fashion. We personally think this vintage Givenchy outfit worn by Zendaya stole the night. Moving to music.
Olivia Rodrigo has just announced 2 additional shows for her Guts World Tour in Melbourne and Sydney, bringing the total shows in Australia up to 6. Rave reviews are hailing her as a luminary pop rock star, but if you want to see it for yourself, get in quick. Ticketmaster says there's far more fans than tickets available. Now, it's already no small feat moving to another country, but it's especially daunting for international students who often travel alone to acclimate to life in another country. To learn more about how they've adapted to life in Australia, here's Obi with a special report on international students from La Trobe University, Bundoora.
Thousands of students come all over the world to attend La Trobe University. We caught up with some of them to see what they've been up to.
I'm from the UK. I am actually from the southwest of England, but I go to uni in Scotland. I'm studying sociology with criminology.
I'm from a little town in the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina in the United States. Very different from here.
I'm from Singapore, doing physiotherapy as a first-year kid.
Come from all over the world to study here, creating new experiences and making friends at every turn.
Where do I begin? It was kind of really nice to see how nature-oriented everything was, and how welcoming and friendly the people are, and it gives a lot of resources just kind of to make me excel as a student, which is really helpful.
They have even experienced culture shocks and the jokes that Aussies say to foreigners, most pertaining to drop bears.
Turns out they don't exist, but I thought I was being attacked by one.
But coming to a new city and new living arrangements doesn't come without its issues, some of which include grocery shopping and paying for school.
I think the food prices here are quite expensive. I was expecting the prices to be a bit higher, but still it's quite like $20 for a meal is kind of a bit much.
It's intense. Like, I go to the grocery store and I stress because lots of the produce and stuff is really expensive here. But if you go to like a farmer's market and stuff like that, it's way more affordable.
But even while studying and figuring out life, there is a lot of fun things to do off campus.
Like taking a short tram ride down to Fitzroy, which has lots of great shops, art and food, allowing students to explore what Melbourne has to offer.
I don't really have public transportation where I am right now, so I think it's super helpful to be able to just hop on a bus or a tram and just get anywhere you need. It's really great. I've been around the city, around Fitzroy area, which is super fun, and done a bunch of little hikes and gone along the coast, which has been great.
Students get to come face to face with Australian wildlife.
And koalas and wallabies, and I fed some kangaroos, which was pretty cool. Because the wildlife is so scary, like that is just enough to put me off and make me never ever go.
Despite the cost of living, students still believe La Trobe University is one of the best schools in Australia.
It's such an amazing place, and I'm so lucky to have been here. The education that I'm getting here, I think it's all really refreshing.
Classrooms alone don't create fond memories. It's the people that make their experience so enjoyable.
I think it's quite a accepting community and it's quite happening.
Yeah, I love the Australian people. Everyone's super friendly and just really open-minded and way more outgoing and open to learning new things and meeting new people.
Whether they're here for a long or a short time, international students at La Trobe are always bound to have a great experience. This is Obi from Bundoora Bulletin.
Making it in the big city isn't always so easy, but making it big as a music artist, even less so. In a city known for vibrant music festivals, it takes a lot for Melbourne musicians to get their first gigs and make it big. Ella Burns reports.
The city of Melbourne is considered to be the heart of live music in Australia, where hundreds of aspiring musicians come to voice their talents. Many venues across Melbourne host up-and-coming musicians promoting the live music scene. Since an 80% drop in the number of promoted events due to COVID, Melbourne has evidently brought live music back to life. There isn't a day in Melbourne where you won't find live music being performed. A venue in Fitzroy, the Old Bar, is proof of this. Opening in 2001, the value and commitment to live music is strong.
Live music's important for everyone. It kind of creates a sense of community.
As Melbourne's live music culture is renowned, there isn't ever a shortage of performers at the venue, with performers such as Austin Jane playing.
I have a booking agent that books gigs for me, which is really cool.
Melbourne having its reputation for live music, Austin is heading in the right direction to make her dreams come true. Melbourne has not only musicians that want to make it big, but more amateur performers that just enjoy the art of performing. 20-year-old Charlie Jones is a first-year university student navigating the struggles of being a musician and a full-time student.
I find that at the moment, it's a very healthy balance between the two because usually uni and work happens during the week.
Charlie has played on average once a week since leaving high school and mostly lined up on the weekends.
Well, I firstly just enjoyed playing music in general, and then that's always elevated when you're playing in front of a crowd who enjoy it.
With the Old Bar having daily opportunities and many other venues in Melbourne, people like Charlie can also make their mark in the Melbourne live music scene. If you're lucky, you may even find a venue you can bring your dogs to. This is Ella Burns, Bundoora Bulletin.
Now we make our way into sports.
Remembered as one of the greats of the sport taken too soon.
It's been over 4 years since the heartbreaking loss of Kobe Bryant, the NBA superstar often hailed as one of the greatest basketballers in the sport's history. A lifelong legacy remains left by the iconic shooting guard. He was 41. Christian has his special tribute.
26th of January 2020, the world mourned the loss of one of the greatest NBA players in history. 4 years on, Kobe Bryant is still remembered by players and fans alike all across the globe. Passionate Lakers fan Charlie Smith spoke highly of Kobe Bryant's impact on the community and the game since his tragic death.
He didn't get the flowers he deserved when he was alive. It's not only until now we recognise how great he was for the game and the fans. His legacy will never waver, and the influence he had on everyone will be felt for decades to come.
Former NBA Talent Academy participant Brendan Mead says the lasting impact of Kobe Bryant was largely due to the incredible performances he produced throughout his stellar career.
For someone who's played NBA during his younger days, I would say, he's been a huge impact not only to myself but to a lot of the younger generation leading up. He's deep within my heart and a lot of other players' hearts, and we miss you, Kobe, we love you, Kobe, and thank you for all the memories with the Lakers and NBA.
Both here in Australia and across the globe, everyone has a profound respect for Kobe Bryant. Likewise for former Villanova College basketballer Ollie Murray, who had high praise for the superstar.
Oh, well, Kobe being Bryant, being the player he was and, playing almost 2 centuries of the game, absolutely fantastic player.
In a statement from Island Express, the company responsible for the helicopter crash that took Kobe's life and the lives of 8 other people, including his 13-year-old daughter, CEO Sam Ripley said, 4 years on, we acknowledge and take full responsibility for the events that occurred on the 26th of January 2020. Island Express sends our best wishes to the Bryant family, as well as the families of the 8 people who lost their lives on such a tragic day. The basketball community will continue to grieve and remember the career of superstar Kobe Bryant. 4 years on, his legacy will never be forgotten. Christian Cavallo for Bundoora Bulletin.
Half a minute to play. Bryant for the lead. Yes! Kobe Bryant gives the Lakers the lead.
Now we turn to Noah for tonight's sports.
Thanks, Nikita. Let's start with a look at this week in sports. This weekend saw some smashing footy matches with some tight results in Port Adelaide versus Hawthorn 80-79. Elsewhere, we saw major triumphs with Brisbane beating Richmond 163-44. In netball, another close one with West Coast inching out Adelaide 57-56, and Melbourne making moves to bring it home against Queensland 69-62. And earlier this week, Max Verstappen took home yet another pole at the Imola circuit. Lando Norris hot on his heels in second, with Charles Leclerc earning big points on his team's turf in third place. Australia's own Oscar Piastri put on a mighty showing in fourth place, with Daniel Ricciardo managing just 13th. Now, into the headlines. There has been no shortage of concussions in the AFL as of late, but recent protocol changes surrounding them have left many clubs stunned. Lily McLean investigates the long-term effects of the protocols of the sport and its players.
In the wake of ever-growing concerns surrounding the damage that concussions have caused to athletes in the AFL, the governing body of all levels of football in Australia, have changed the guidelines relating to concussion. The debate has been coming to the surface for quite some time now, and as a result of multiple lawsuits from former professional players, the AFL have taken action to limit the damage caused by concussions at all levels of the game. This includes the local level, in which players are now required to take 21 days off following being diagnosed with a concussion, in comparison to the previous 12 days that was required. Many families are glad the safety of players has been taken into consideration to prevent them from getting further injured if they were to play while suffering from a concussion.
I'm actually really happy that Angus will have to take a break from footy. I feel like he's gone back to footy too soon after previous knocks to the head. And with everything that I'm hearing in the media now about the impact on mental health and behaviour as a result of concussions, I think it's a really good step to protect him.
The changes in the guidelines regarding dealing with concussions is mostly surrounding the long-term damage that multiple concussions can cause, including chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE. However, some fans are apprehensive of this approach due to its ability to change the nature of the game.
I think historically that the danger that's been associated with football has kind of been not key, but like a major part of the identity of football and football players.
The AFL have been developing these changes to concussion protocols for quite some time now, and they have resulted in some mixed reviews from fans, families and players.
When you think about like the long-term effects a concussion can have, you want to like really reduce the amount of concussions that are happening in relevant succession.
Mostly the response has been positive, which the AFL is glad about, as people are happy that the AFL are taking player safety into consideration. However, there are still some concerned about what this could do to the game. Lily McLean, Bundoora Bulletin.
It's among the most prestigious sporting events in the world. Formula One has travelled the globe and made a presence in many cities, but not without some controversies over the years. After this year's exciting Australian Grand Prix, however, not everyone was so thrilled about the race coming to Melbourne. Damien reports.
This year's Melbourne Formula One Grand Prix brought the adrenaline of racing cars back to Australia. The sound of roaring engines took over Albert Park during the 4 days of the event. Carlos Sainz rose to victory after the dropout of Max Verstappen. Controversy continued on and off the track with a questionable move by Fernando Alonso that led to George Russell's accident during the last lap.
Red flag, red flag, red flag, I'm in the middle of a track.
Hundreds of volunteers and marshals worked in the event to ensure the safety of both the drivers and the public. Director of Communication and Content for Motorsport Australia, Paul Riordan, said the Grand Prix is a substantial source of revenue for the motorsport industry.
Motorsport is bringing $8.6 billion worth of services, travel, tourism, jobs.
The event has grown to become one of the most attended races on the F1 calendar.
You've got 400,000 plus people going across the weekend. It's a big event.
But these numbers don't tell the whole story. All year round, Albert Park is home to many animals and plant life. For people, it is a place for exercising and socializing. However, every year, this natural landscape is disrupted via large crowds, tons of rubbish, and excessive noise. On top of this, the F1 Grand Prix poses a major financial detriment to the city, which experts from Save Albert Park warn.
The economics are saying proper studies, cost-benefit analysis done by the Auditor General, that it causes a net economic loss to Victoria every year.
So, given its drastic economic drawbacks, is there a way for the Grand Prix to still be held in Victoria?
The F1 Grand Prix could have its place if it didn't cost taxpayers a lot. This is the most expensive option you can have, setting it up and pulling it down. Last year, $68 million of the $100 million loss was spent on all of this set up and pulled down.
Regardless, Australian Grand Prix fans can look forward to the event in Melbourne until at least 2037. However, after that, one must wonder what will change. Damien Filiposki, Bundoora Bulletin.
Thank you, Kate. Now we turn to Ella for this week's weather, and it's looking like we're in for quite a mild week ahead.
Yes, Jack. The weather ahead has its ups and downs, but it's looking like a cool week for Melburnians. Tomorrow will be cloudy with a warm change in the afternoon and a top of 16, as is the case for Saturday, with a little more sunshine, and then back again to clouds on Sunday. Monday will start a little higher with a low of 10 before warming up around 2 p.m. to 15, before the sun begins to shine again on Tuesday and Wednesday with a top of 17 for both. Knowing Melbourne weather, be sure to pack an umbrella just in case. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Ella.
And Bundoora, that's what's making headlines this Thursday. I'm Nikita.
And I'm Jack. Thank you. Have a good night.